Good morning, everybody. So again, my name is Natasha Carlyon. So I work at Greater Sum, which is essentially a company that builds custom software for clients in addition to providing training and consulting on agile technical practices, such as we recently helped a client build UI tests for their Angular app. So if you're interested in our services or if you have any questions about my presentation, please feel free to contact me. The best way to really get in contact with me is through my Twitter. Just a note, I did already posted these slides on my Twitter account. So if you want to check the slides out, you can see it on Twitter. I just want to quickly share that Greater Sum is hosting Software Craftsmanship Day, which is essentially a day full of coding where programmers of varying levels work together on mini coding projects or participate in one of the activities such as learning how to do test-driven development, refactoring code smells, and so on. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, you can easily Google Greater Sum Software Craftsmanship Day and sign up for the event. It's like $20, just covers the price of breakfast and lunch. All right, so let's begin. So I just want to share the story of how I discovered the Angular console. So what happened was I was pair programming with a friend, and I pulled up my terminal, and I started typing ng space g and then the title of my talk of the app, which is kind of similar to my title. And what happened, so I'll show you. Is that I got some red text. It says the generate command requires to be run in an Angular project, but a project definition could not be found. Unfortunately, that didn't really tell me enough to what I should have typed instead, so I had to do some Googling, go to documentation. I'm like, oh, I should have typed this. This is honestly what I should have typed. And then that actually worked. I'm like really grateful that they have this, because I remember originally how I had to like go to documentation to figure that out. But yeah, so that is essentially what I had to do instead. And then when this error happened, my friend was like, oh, have you heard of the Angular console? I'm like, no, I never heard of that. And she said, oh, you should look it up, but it's essentially a graphical interface for the Angular CLI. I'm like, what? That sounds amazing. Like, I want to check that out. So I went to the Angular console website. Here it is, angularconsole.com. And you can download the Angular console software. It's available on Mac and Windows and Linux, although it is in an experimental phase for Linux. And I watched the video, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I need to start using this right away. And I'm going to do my talk on this for ngAtlanta. It honestly wasn't until like 3 or 4 weeks ago where I realized, oh, the creators of the Angular console, Narwhal Technologies, happen to be the platinum sponsors of this talk as well. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I guess it depends on how this presentation goes. So, like, okay, that's kind of fun. So the best way to really describe the Angular console is just to like show you the magic. So let's open up the Angular console. When you download the software, this is the first thing that you see. So you can either create an Angular Workspace or open an existing one. Let's go create one. So I'm in the right directory. I'm creating code. I'm just going to call it the original name, my new workspace. Very original. And then for now, we're going to stick to the default Angular CLI workspace. So here you see the output. I could have literally copied this and pasted it in my terminal, and you would see the same thing. For those of you who are like, what is an Angular workspace? So a good way to think of an Angular workspace is to think of it as a GitHub repository. A GitHub repository can have just one Angular app or multiple Angular apps. So that's a good way to think of a workspace. So now it's creating my workspace, and then as a default, it'll also create an Angular app for the workspace. So you can have actually multiple Angular apps in one workspace. You can do the standard commands, serve, test, or build, but what we're going to do something that probably all of us have done at some point is generate a component. If you're an Angular developer, you probably ran this command. And what I love about, so this is where you start seeing the magic. The Angular console is amazing because it just has a really intuitive and easy to navigate interface. So here, if you're like new to Angular, you could just honestly focus on the important fields and ignore everything else. Okay, make sure. So oftentimes the important fields are the fields that are generally required or fields that you should really consider while you're building this component. So I'm going to name my component. Let's just name it home. And I'm going to show you the terminal down here. And you'll see home is right here. And as I type code, it'll update it over here. And what's really nice about this is that at the end, you see appended here is --dry-run. So what that does is that it shows you what the output would be without making any changes to your code. I honestly didn't realize this was a thing. And what's nice about it is that sometimes you type a command and then you mistype something and you run it and you're like, oh no, I just created 4 files with the wrong typo. And that's annoying. Then you have to go and delete them. So it's nice that it shows you the output. So like you might have an error like that. And then it says, of course, you can't have like a star like that. So if you don't really care about the terminal, you can go to the structured output. And so type something here. It'll say it's running task. And then as soon as it completes, it gives you a green check. So that just gives you a simple view if you don't care about seeing all this code. So once you are done, actually, sorry, I'm going to hide this. So if you're kind of already familiar with the Angular CLI and you're a more experienced developer, you might want to you should definitely check out the optional fields because one, it makes your life easier because you don't have to type out that command. And you discover a lot of things. Like, I did not realize this was a thing, view encapsulation. What this does is that when you create a component that's emulated, it takes the CSS from the main CSS. If you have a native one, then what that does is just essentially just uses the CSS only for that component. And then none, what that does, it makes it so that the CSS is available for the other components. And so you have to be careful because if you have a mix of components that have like none and native, then your native apps, what they'll do is it'll also see the CSS for the component that has like none. So you don't want your CSS to mix too much. But I didn't realize that was a thing, so that was kind of cool. And there's just like all these different flags. Like you can add a prefix to your selector. Let's say I want to do a prefix ngAtlanta. Generally, the prefix is app. Or maybe I'm creating a component where I don't plan on doing like any testing for it because it's a very simple component. So I'm going to turn the spec to false. And what's nice is if you notice, under each field, it tells you what it does, and it also tells you the default in case if you forget. So there's just all these amazing selectors and flags. And once you're done, all you have to do is click generate. And see how long this CLI command is? Just imagine having to type all that. So instead of typing, all we had to do was like merely click multiple flags. You see here, I only created 3 files because I said I didn't want to create spec files for this component. So I just think that's really amazing that you're just able to do a couple of clicks to run the command that you want, instead of having to go to documentation or doing this manually and going around this. So I thought that was really cool. The next feature of the Angular console is the NPM, running the NPM scripts. So here are the default scripts that you see here. I'm just going to open the workspace that we just created. Should be Natasha, documents, code, and then it's called my new workspace. Let's see if I can read. There you go. There's my new workspace. No, let's do new window. Okay, so here is what the Angular app that we just created. As you can see, if I open this, here's a component with a very strange name created there. So let me go to presentation mode. And then I'm going to open package.json. OK. So these are the general default scripts. But let's say I have a script. This is a script that we personally use at Greater Sum called, we call it TL. And what it does is it runs the linter and the test. Let's see if I remember this. So I'm going to set the browsers to Chrome, and I want to set the watch to false. We generally run this command in our CI, continuous integration. And then we also have another command called LT, just because sometimes we forget which one it is. And some of you are thinking, oh, that only saves you a couple of seconds. But the real thing is that it saves you mental fatigue. Really frustration, because mental fatigue can accumulate throughout the day as a developer. And then if you type TL, you're like, oh, that's so annoying. Now I have to type I'm supposed to type LT. So if you have both commands, I know it's just a few seconds, but we just thought it helped us as developers. So I have TL and LT. And then I go back to my thing, and you see it just popped up there. So it can grab all your NPM scripts. This probably would have been really helpful for like John Papa if you saw his NPM scripts from the previous presentation. So you just click here, and then I can just click run. And it runs my script. It's going to run my linting, which will, I think, probably fail, yeah. It's going to fail because we have a prefix ngAtlanta instead of app. And then it's going to go and run my tests. So this is really a powerful tool if you have like a lot of different NPM scripts. Like we were recently working on an app with, we want to be able to run the same test suite with different data configurations and against like different systems in the CI. So it was really helpful to be able to like essentially run a script with a couple clicks. Browsers. Should have typed, OK. I meant -- browsers. OK, but we got the gist there. So it's just really helpful that it just automatically pulls it in, and you can run it in a couple clicks, and you can also add arguments here. I was like really happy about this feature. The last main feature is a CLI extension. So they have quite a collection of CLI extensions that you can add. Like I didn't realize Angular Material had one. So if you want to add one, you can just click on like Narwhal schematics and then click add. And I'm just going to click here, structure output, so I know when it's done. But yeah, they have like a CLI for a progressive web app, for React, for Kendall, for Angular Material, and other schematics. So that's really useful. So Narwhal schematics, again, Narwhal they created this software, Angular console. They also have a CLI extension, which really helps. It's essentially an extension in the Angular CLI, and it helps teams build enterprise Angular apps where you can have like multiple Angular projects, and it really helps. What it really does is it makes your workspace really flexible, and it makes sure that your apps are not like dependent on all the other apps. So it really helps constrain the dependencies. That's completed. So those are really the main features of the Angular console. But there's one thing I do want to note, is that recently Angular console added the ability to integrate Cypress. And when I read that blog post, I was like ecstatic. Raise your hand if you use Cypress. OK, couple hands. OK, prepare. OK. Cypress is just amazing. So the thing is, Cypress is essentially a JavaScript end-to-end testing framework. Let me show you the website. Here's the website, cypress.io. It's a JavaScript end-to-end testing framework. And the only small issue about Cypress is that it's in JavaScript. And I really enjoy coding in TypeScript. So it did take some noodling around to figure out how to integrate Cypress into our Angular app and make it so that we could type all our tests just in TypeScript and not in JavaScript. And I honestly wish I discovered an Angular console earlier because they make it really easy for you to integrate Cypress with an Angular app. All you have to do is, first, you do have to have the Narwhal schematics. But all you need to do is you can generate code, and then you go to application, and then I'll just name it Cypress. Then you go to your optional fields, and you go all the way down to E2E TestRunner right here. So by default, it will always add protractor for you, but all you have to do is type Cypress. And then you click generate, and it'll simply generate the app for you, integrating Cypress and creating all the necessary files you need and to just get started. So I thought that was really amazing. So just to save on time, I already created this app with Cypress because I really feel like everyone needs to see the magic of Cypress because it essentially revolutionized the way how we did UI testing at our company. So what I'm going to do is, so yeah, once you click generate, it'll create an app that I already have set up over here. So I'm going to go just run it here. That'll be a lot easier. So I'm going to open an existing workspace. I called it ngAtlanta Cypress. So this is how you open an existing workspace. And you'll see a list of your workspaces. OK, it's loading. So yeah, you'll see workspace here. Just going to go back for a moment just to show you. So if you want to make sure that you can have quick access to a workspace, you can hard it, and then it'll always be pinned up here, just a note. So I'm going to go to my ngAtlanta Cypress, and then here I have multiple apps. And if I want to run the Cypress test, I just have to click here, my end-to-end testing, and going to set this true. Just because I want to be able to, what this does is essentially whenever I change code in my app, it'll rerun the test. So let's click run. And it'll open up the Cypress runner and run the test. But what I really love about Cypress is that it makes it really easy for you to debug your UI tests. And it just does a really good job. There's opening. But it also does a really good job figuring out what went wrong, and it records videos of the UI test for you. It also shows you snapshots of where your test fails. And it's really easy to read language. So for instance, I'll show you the test that I wrote for this. Yes, there we go. So it's easy to read language, like you can grab things by input, and you can type things. This is something that I type quickly. The dot contains, what it essentially does, it waits until it sees the text, and then it clicks it. So it has automatic waits, which I love. Let's see, did it open? Is it it's still running? Oh, there it is. OK, that's good. So here's the Cypress runner. And I'm going to go ahead and run all the specs. So this is a test where it's just a quick test I wrote up, where you go to Google, I type in ngAtlanta, and then I click I find the word ngAtlanta 2019, go to schedule, and I scroll to my talk. So it's really fast. It's going to click schedule. And then it's going to click conference day 1, and it just finished. So it's like super fast. So scroll to my talk over here. And what's amazing about this, like I mentioned the snapshot, so I can go here. This is where it is at that point. Or I can go over here. And we have this integrated in our CI where it like records this, so we can go to our dashboard and actually watch a video of our UI test and see where it fails. Like, this is just amazing. So I was really happy when I learned that Angular console integrated Cypress. So that made me really pleased. But yeah, like, so it's really easy to read. I can like change this to conference day 2. Let's save this. And then let's see the test run again. There we go. And it's going to go to conference day 2 instead. And there it went to this talk instead. So dependency injection and nest in Angular. So it's just like really, it revolutionized the way that we did UI tests. So just a quick summary of my presentation. I'll just go here. So essentially, the Angular console is a graphical interface for the CLI. I feel like it's very accessible for both beginners and experienced developers in the sense that if you're new to Angular, you can just focus on the important fields. If you're more experienced, I definitely recommend checking out the optional arguments, and you'll discover new things there. But what I really love is that I feel like Narwhal Technologies, they did a good job understanding that as humans, we don't naturally just like remember things in intricate details. We're more pattern seekers. It's easier for us to recognize patterns and recognize things that reminds of things. Like for instance, I know that there's some kind of argument to remove spec files, but I don't really remember the exact words or things that I have to type. But if I see that command in the graphical interface, then I'll remember it and be able to flag that command. So I think that's why I really love Angular console, and I really like the integrated terminal. And again, I also really like Cypress. So just as a reminder, for those of you who, I did post these slides on Twitter. So if you want to see these resources, I have the links to Angular console, Cypress, and the blog post that explains how to integrate Cypress with Angular console. And here's, again, my contact information. But you can easily find this on my Twitter account, which is nscarlyon. So I just want to take this moment to thank everybody for giving me this privilege to share my knowledge. Thank you.
That was great. I love how the last 2 talks have been about developer ergonomics and just becoming a more efficient developer. We probably spend too much time trying to optimize our code and things like that, but not enough
about the latest and greatest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we don't spend enough time thinking about like how we code and just becoming more efficient at that.
Oh, I love the little thing of the LT or TL. Like I was like, oh yeah, genius. Like that little thing is going to save you so many headaches down the road.
That was really smart.
That was good. So
I've definitely hit myself in the foot. So Natasha's coming over. I want to ask you, how do I get the title of software crafter? Because I'm just a software engineer, but I want to be a crafter. That sounds like an artist. Is that your actual title there, or just something you call yourself?
It's mostly at Greater Sum. We really care about craftsmanship, and we believe that software is a craft that you have to practice and develop. And so that's why we really like the word software crafter. We generally call ourselves software crafters.
That's awesome. And so that is on your LinkedIn. That is your title.
I think so, yes.
That's very cool. I like it. Well, you could change your LinkedIn to that.
Yeah.
But can I change my actual title at Netflix to software?
I don't know, man.
I'll be
Might
the
have
only
to
one.
talk to your manager. I don't know.
Oh, my manager's the worst. Like, literally the worst. So,
go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead.
No, you're far more interesting than I am.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. But Actually, I'd never even seen the Angular console. That was a really cool tool, and I actually was really impressed. Like, Cypress is amazing. I'm a huge fan of it. So being able to integrate the two, like, I was really impressed with that. So thank you so much for that demo. I took away like a lot of information on that too. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you found on your team that integrating Cypress actually led to people writing more tests because it was just so much easier?
Yes, definitely, because before UI tests, I don't know if you're at all familiar writing UI tests, they're like notoriously slow and like can be time consuming to write, but Cypress makes it easy because they have automatic waits. So it waits until it sees something before trying to click on it, and which is amazing. And yeah, it definitely encouraged us to write more UI tests, especially with the snapshots. Like that's a time saver.
I love that, being able to time travel, go back and forth and see actually what happened.
Just being able to debug what happened right there and see like, oh, visually see this didn't happen. I expected that to happen. I love that you asked that question because I was thinking the same thing. As like, how do we get people to write more tests? And like, really, I could see how that would actually help is just being able to make it that much easier and, you know, just removing that added complexity of writing all the files, spec files. It's like, it's done for you.
We have a note down there that says you love to travel. Where's the next big place you want to go to?
I guess I'm engaged, so we were planning on going to Switzerland for a honeymoon.
Ooh,
that's a good one. You were there not that long ago.
So weird fact, I got engaged last year in Switzerland. So
wow, that's
really Wait, can I see your ring?
Oh yes, here.
That is nice. That might be nicer than the ring I got my fiance. So
well, don't tell her. Yeah, we'll keep that one secret.
Don't tell her.
Wow.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Oh no, I had nothing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, for giving a great talk, and hope to catch up with you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.